want to show you how you can use the looper to make samples and attach them to drum tracks instead of using audio tracks. So this way you can not have to worry about 8 audio track limit, and you can store all your samples like you did on the MPC Live right on the drum track. You could store a single sample, or you could slice up your loops and store those on drum track. So let's start with an empty project, and let me just delete what it starts with. Okay, so I'm going to use some outboard instrument. I've got my Roland FA06. I'm going to start off by adding an audio track just to monitor the sound. So I'm going to add an audio track and just make sure that the monitor is set to in so I can hear my keyboard. Okay, so I've got a guitar sound up here. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a drum track, which is where I'm going to keep my sample. And I'm going to need to trigger this sample on the drum track. So let me make a clip and put a trig on the first pad, which is where I'll place my loop. So I'll hit clip, create 4-bar, create new clip. Now I'll just go to the grid, zoom in a little bit with the zoom tool so I can place a trig exactly where I want. I'll hit the pencil and I'll put a trig on the first pad in the first beat right there. All right, so that will be how I play my sample. Now I'll go out and I'll go to the looper. All right, so now I have the looper and it's set up for 4 bars and to sync, so it'll come in on the 1. I set it up to play so it doesn't keep going over and over, but let me do an overdub, because that's kind of one of the great benefits of the looper is that you can create layered samples rather than just a single playthrough on 4 bars. I'll do something in C minor, something very simple. So let's hit the record button so I can get the metronome going. I want to hear the metronome. I hit play. Okay, 2, 3, 4. It's a little off on time. I'm going to clear that out. Rushed it a little bit. Wait for it to come around. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Whatever. My second layer. Do one more. Okay, that's enough. Turned off the recorder. Turn off the play. Turn off the metronome. All right, so now I've got this 4-bar loop with a few layers, kind of messy. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to put this on the drum track. So I hit export, and surprisingly to me, the only option here is that you can save it to an audio track. So I'm going to save it onto my first audio track, which I'm just simply using as a monitor. I don't want any clips there, but it's going to edit. It's going to edit in a new clip, and I'll say export to the clip. That's fine. Let's take a look. If I go back to the matrix, I see I have something here. And if I touch it, nothing is playing. But if I go into the sample editor, that's my new looper sample. I can rename it, but let's hit the standard play setup for the sample, and let's just loop through it. Okay, so there it is. And at this point, I can save it directly to the drum track that I set up and not have to worry about audio tracks. So what do? I go into not trim, but chop. Once I'm in chop, I hit shift, convert, and now it gives me the options. Convert drum track using slices. Well, I didn't put any slices, so if I try this, it won't work, but I can put some slices, and this will be great. Give me a brand new drum track with those slices. I can do a new track with new samples, and this is the one I want. Assign the slice to the pad A01, which is where I place my trig, on drum 001. So let's do it. Okay, now let's go back out to the matrix. I'm going to delete this audio clip. I'm in the launch, so I'm going to hit delete. The other thing I want to do is I want to clear out my looper because I don't want that playing at the same time. So I'm going to go back and clear out my looper. Looper, clear. Go back to the matrix. So now I just have drum 001 with a trig on it. And when I play, there it is. And in this way, finish it out. In this way, you can layer as many loops, and also, of course, you can go into the sampler instead of the looper and just run your sample straight through on the sampler and then chop off the end to get it exactly into matching a loop. I like to use the looper because it gives me exactly bars, 4 bars, 2 bars, 8 bars, whatever. And also you can layer on top and make a layered sample, which is particularly helpful, I think, for vocals, because you want to do some background vocals or something, you just double it up, triple it up, it sounds great. And then you can add it to a drum track as a sample, and the drum track just plays that sample. Of course, you can put more samples on a single drum track. You can load up the whole drum track if you wanted to. And that's another technique that has its pros and cons. So let me leave it there. And hopefully this was helpful.